All right, well, it's almost Halloween time. So I just thought, in keeping with the spooky season, I'd go outside in the Jeep graveyard out there and dig around for a couple of parts that I'm missing. So I'm looking for the vibration dampener, the front pulley. I was also hunting for my stick shift for my transmission, and I found them, and it's pretty scary. So give me just a minute. I'll show you what I found out there. All right, well, we did haul in some of the parts that were still hanging out in the Jeep graveyard there. This is kind of the remainder of the oil pump area. This is where the filter goes. This is the plate that kind of closes up that oil pump when we get that on there. So this obviously needs a little cleaning because it's a little oily. I might have had a little oil leak on the old engine. I don't know if you noticed that, but it looks like maybe some oil was leaking here or there. I did find my vibration dampener. Hold on. This is it. I'm not really sure that this is going to be salvageable. It was pretty rusty and nasty before it came off of the old block. Although if we look really, really close, there is a little tiny bit of that original AMC blue paint. I don't know if you can see that, but trust me, it's there a tiny little bit. So I'll get the wire wheel after this for a little bit and see what we think of it. But jury's out on whether this is going back on the block or not. And then we did find the water pump pulley here on the old water pump with some of those longer bolts that I needed to track down. Some of these won't really come out because they're hitting against the pulleys. So I needed the bolts, or at least I need to be able to get them in my hand so I can measure them and get some new fresh ones. And I'll have to pull this off of this thing. It's pretty much welded on there or something. I mean, it's not welded on, but it didn't come off, and now when I'm looking at the new one, it's just a plate this was bolted to. So I have to work on that a little bit, but you can see this is the old water pump, and yeah, it's seen better days, that's for sure. I think it was wise to replace that thing. So really all I want to salvage out of this is just the bolts enough to get me the size for the bolts. So we'll figure out what to do about that. And one last thing I did find. There's my T14 transmission shifter. So it'll need some cleanup as well, but that'll be ready to go back on top of the transmission, seal that up. So yeah, a good haul of stuff out of the graveyard over there. And I got my work cut out for me now, getting it cleaned up and see if we can use it, or if we got to buy a few more parts. It is getting to the point where I've had the car out of the garage for a few days just because I kind of have this thing just right in the middle. I think I can push it over to the side for now and situate things a little bit here and get this under control. So I'll do that tonight, and then I'll start attacking these parts and see if they're salvageable, and I'll let you know how we do. All right, well, lest you think that this whole project is nothing more than just opening up brand new boxes of new parts all the time, I'm out here working on some of that stuff that I salvaged off the old block here. I've got that cover for my oil pump here, and you can see what a mess that thing is. So just me and a rag and a wire brush and my beat up old gloves out here cleaning this junk off. It's not junk, but it's cleaning this old stuff off so that I can get it painted up, freshened up, ready to go back on our nice shiny block over there. So I'm gonna work on that a little bit. I'll let you look over my shoulder if you want, and we'll clean some more stuff up tonight, get it ready for a little bit of paint.
Well, I'll just tell you right now, if you're really going to do a project like this, you're going to have to make your mind up about which parts you're willing to bleed a little for and which you're willing to just spend some money and get new ones. But anyway, this is that thing where my oil filter goes on, and I got myself with the wire brush a little bit. I put the brush on the drill, and wouldn't recommend that on a piece like this. That is pretty much impossible to get chucked up in the vise anyway. So anyway, I'll survive, and I do have this to the point where I'm going to put a little paint on it. So I'm going to tape up my surfaces here that I don't want paint on. Here and here I still see I got a little bit of oil in there, but I'll wipe that off and put a little paint on this face, and we're going to paint that thing. Going to put some of the black primer on, let it dry, and then we'll do the blue later. All right, well, I just thought I'd give you a quick wrap up of what the paint shop looks like today. So this piece and this actually goes inside of that one. And those go over on the top of the shift lever for the transmission. This is the cover for the mechanical fuel pump, and we will not be using the mechanical fuel pump because we've got an electric fuel pump to go with our fuel injection. So I did have that already on there because of that last fuel injection system I had. However, this was kind of shiny aluminum chromish looking stuff, so I went ahead and painted it, the normal paint. And then this is that oil pump housing this is where our oil filter goes on, and my vibration dampener is all painted up just flat black, and we're going to call that good, just leave that black. So anyway, and then over here hanging in the vise so it could dry without touching everything, I have the shift lever for the transmission. So again, those cups kind of go right here with this. There's a spring, and then that littler cup and the outside cup, and that outside cup screws onto the top of the transmission. So that'll go back in the tranny pretty soon here. So yeah, I think I mentioned that I was just going to try to lower the engine down on the hoist to meet the transmission on the cart. And yeah, that worked out pretty well. So I took a little bit of messing around, kind of lining everything up, but that's to be expected, and it went actually pretty well. So those two pieces are now one. Alright, well, if you can see what I can see, we got a transmission transfer case hooked back up to our bell housing, which is hooked to our block. We got our motor mounts on there. I went and got some new 7/16-14x2 grade 8 bolts to put in the transmission to bell housing joint here. And I know what you're thinking. I could probably, with a little bit of work, get this thing sitting in the chassis today. However, I mentioned my issue with my twin stick thing. I want to leave this out where I can get to it while I work on that. And I also have to find out my new starter. You know, the top bolt is threaded into the starter plate, and I don't seem to be able to find a bolt that will fit that. So I'm going to reach out to those guys tomorrow and ask them if they can tell me what size hole that is. It's not fitting anything I got, so maybe it's just fine threaded or something. I haven't. The other bolt for the bottom goes straight through, but this top one's threaded into the starter plate. So I do want to get the starter on here while I got it easy to work on. So just 2 things left before we start to put this thing up in there, but pretty darn close. So for now, I'm going to wrap this up for the weekend and get some other stuff done. I've got this pushed over out of the way as usual, so I get the car in here. But I am now sitting on the little cart that I used to have underneath the transmission, so it should be good. So I did find my old dipstick. So got to get that put in the oil pan on the other side here at some point. But yeah, she's about ready to go back in the frame. So next time you see me, I expect that's what we're going to be doing. But for now, thanks for sticking with me, and I'll see you next time around.